Morning, punters. Welcome back to the review of Rosehill Saturday. Good morning, John Walter from racingwatch.com.au. How you going?
Why are we reviewing Rosehill, Paul? It's because it was the only meeting in the world that was on, or?
Well, we probably would have been doing Doomben, but
it would have been a short review.
It obviously got called off, and they've called it off Wednesday as well. So after reprogramming it to Wednesday, so it's gone. And some of those races, obviously Saturday, and a couple of changes in some of the other races to, I suppose, fit with the carnival and what they're trying to do. I'm not quite sure why they wouldn't have just gone to Eagle Farm as they had Saturday done. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, even to move it Wednesday to Eagle Farm. Anyway, it is what it is.
I think obviously the fillies have got to back up a week later into the Oaks. The rest of them all, it's not too bad, I think, the way it all works out.
Yeah. So Rosehill Saturday, the shoot races being races 1, 2, 8 and 10. Look, they played a bit worse, almost a 10 there, heavy 10. And the course proper races about a 9.2. So pretty much bang on by the stewards this time. So it's good for them to get one right eventually. And look, the inside was completely cast, John, and we saw that pretty much from race 1, which made me sort of do a quick shuffle around in terms of what I was doing with some of my bonuses and penalties for maps, but didn't make a lot of difference to me on the day. But
well, it was certainly aggressive, and sort of Rosehill is normally a bit drier than it is wet, I guess, traditionally, and it was just a monster heavy track. Like I've never seen it play as disastrous on the inside. Normally you can race up the inside, get to the middle, and it's fine at Rosehill, but any sort of inside passage there on Saturday was pretty detrimental.
Yeah, you didn't want to be there, even in run. Okay, so start off with race 1, the 2-year-old 1,200 metre race. They've gone out solid tempo here, John, and the winner, I thought, did a pretty good job. Ran some time and sections, actually. I think third best last 600 rating on the day, second best last 400 rating, fifth best last 200 rating. And for a 2-year-old to do that, that's pretty good effort. Yes, it was race 1, first used to the track and all that, but this horse did a few things wrong and still got some, even the tongue tie on Saturday.
First up, very importantly.
First up, only had the 2 starts. I think it's got a bit of a future, this horse. I think it can sort of certainly be winning its fair share of races over the winter.
So it's the one here in the 1-1. So it does get a nice spot, and as the pattern of the day sort of works out, it's probably the prime position. But you can see it's like really keen here, and for a horse to resume as I know it's a late 2-year-old now, but 1,200 first up, it's a solid tempo, gets to the front nice and early, powers away, strongest to the line. You've got horses like Northern Beaches, a bit of a funny ride on this horse coming down from Queensland, but everything was basically giving it fitness, and it runs away from them. Like, wow, really? Improved out of sight.
Yeah, and they can do that, of course, as 2-year-olds, and we know that. So, but yeah, I think this horse is certainly worth following. Anything else out of this race you want to say?
No, second horse is a bit stiff not to finish a length closer. Vinny's Secret. I think the form's pretty good. A little bit of a worry of the constitution of Northern Beaches. It just doesn't quite hit the line. Vinny's, Gay's Paul's probably getting up in trip, can just continue to be one-paced and dominate a race from the front, probably get away with one sooner rather than later, maybe back to Canterbury or something like that. And the horse that beat this horse, I should know it, up in Queensland, is absolutely flying. One of Casey Fogden's. So, yeah, I don't know where this horse is. I think this horse back to Canterbury is probably the horse to follow over these two.
Tycoon for Bjorn was having its first run, was pretty easy in the market, and I was a bit against it, but it certainly got out in the market. They just said it failed to handle the track, or track condition, as it were, and lost the plate, I think, in the run.
Completely forgiving of it if it somehow found a dry track. I don't know where in Australia it's going to find a dry track, but if it finds one and it's sort of 3 weeks between runs, I'd just be deleting that run out of your memory bank.
Certainly see again. Just in relation to pattern, haven't got lanes data as yet, but obviously the inside was no good. But in terms of position and run, a handy advantage definitely in those shoot races. In terms of the course proper races, there was no real advantage to be anywhere. You could come from anywhere and do well. So that's how it played. Race 2, the Highway. They've gone out above average tempo here, John. Look, I was on T Berry's mount here. Hang on, are we in the right race? Yes, we are. Hardware Lane.
Yeah, Hardware Lane.
Strange tactics early, I thought. Could have been a lot more forward, and then went to the inside in the straight, and the stewards did question him extensively about that, but he also got fined a monkey for not riding the horse out fully. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure with T Berry at the moment.
He's dead set costed a position here, and I understand that, it's a bigger issue when they're in the first 4. But what's the difference? If you sit up and cost a horse a position, how do they get, so if you run 4th, or if you run 5th instead of 4th, you probably get 2 weeks and 5,000. You do it when you're running 5th, you only get 500. Anyway, agree with you. It was a very lazy ride.
A lazy ride. Look, a horse did pull up, slow to recover, but I still think it could have finished closer. Probably wouldn't have won the race. Okay, and what else in that race? Oh, look, Tiger Tube, very easy in the betting. This horse, 13-2 out of 12-1. Well beaten at 19 lengths almost. What do we say there? Got held up for a little bit of running there near the home turn, got checked off hills.
The check went right back towards the inside. Yeah. It's probably a horse I'd be completely forgetting the runoff to, because I don't think it's going to go around short odds next time, and it's probably one that can reverse that form without surprising.
In terms of closing sectionals, Pure Fago ran, what did we run? 8th best last 400, 3rd best last 200 sectional rating, and Markle Dancer ran 7th best last 400, 4th best last 200. So those runs are okay, but we're only talking highway horses here, so.
I do, and I think there's a horse in this race that really sort of punctuates that, like you said, those short course. It wasn't too bad to be wide and sitting on speed, because I know this horse quite well, and while it's not, had a lot of starts, I should go, and I can't remember its name, overextend. Like, it sat outside, 3 wide outside the leaders, gone forward, back, over-raced the whole way, basically put them away at one point, and then had to get tired. That horse is not good enough to do that unless it's, the place to be. So I definitely think it's the horse in the day that rubber stamps at sort of 3 wide, no cover, wasn't too bad in those shoot races. It was probably an advantage over being back towards the inside where you see these sorts of struggling.
Well, you could pretty much sit wide throughout the day, so no issues there.
Yeah, the winner's been going very well without luck, and no surprise to see him sort of kick on. He's just hard fit and did what he does best, and there wasn't too much. I think Fago went nicely first up. These creatures down the outside need everything to go their way to win races. Markwell Dancer, King's Trust, and I don't know who the other one was. But they'll go around in more highways.
So race 3, the 72 1,500 metre race, they got out fast here, which set it up for the winner and even elusive duel. Both those horses were well back, about 6 or so lengths off the lead. Rangi Toa, they're saying that it'll be better suited stepping up in distance where it can control at a more moderate tempo. French Bonnet, I should say, is that the horse? Yes. French Bonnet went pretty much, I don't know what happened here, but it certainly ran along and ran the fastest sectionals, 2-6, 2-4 and 2-2 in terms of sectional ratings on the day, and no surprise to see it gas up pretty quickly in the straight and finish 7.5 behind them. So I don't know.
Well, it was 2 really weird rides. Like for French Bonnet to do what it did, strange, and then for Barrichello to be up outside at pushing the tempo, even stranger. Rangi Toa taking a sit, strange again, but Bowman does tend to do that. Like, doesn't ride for Gay too often, but does tend to do it. Very weird tactics, and not surprising that Rangi Toa was found out second up with that tempo. I'd sort of be forgiving a bit. The 2 fit horses ran 1-2.
Yeah, look, Hollywood North is sort of in the market, slow to recover, and it's going to go out for a spell now, so we won't see it for a while. I think you're right. I think Rangi Toa can be forgiven that, and it can easily improve if it can control this at a more moderate tempo, or at least, not going as quick as they did. So I think that's all we can say there. In the midway, race 4, fast tempo again here, and pretty slow last 400, 4 to 2, and last 200 race ratings here. So that sort of flattered, I thought, and again, who looked like it made a fair bit of ground. In fact, made about 3 1/4 lengths to last furlong off the winner there. So yes, it was definitely flattered. What else? Anything else you want to say about this race, John?
This race, no, I like Marnington. It's not a horse that's going to, once it was caught up there and working, it was always going to be a little bit soft late. I agree with you. The race was there to be won by anything that was just sort of sitting back, and those horses weren't able to get past Momac, who's a very one-paced average type. Like, good luck to Blake Ryan. It was his first city winner and had a nice enough run outside, so he just toughed them. But everything had its chance to run on. So anything that was back in the field, I agree with you, that couldn't get past these leaders was somewhat flattered. It was a weird. I actually thought it might be a setup, and again, it had 1,000 and I think 1,100 metre run in its first start. Might have got to 12. He resumed it over 1,400 in a group race, and then stayed at 1,400 here. I figured this might be a target betting race, and they kind of nearly pulled it off. But I agree with you. It was certainly couldn't have been more suited by the tempo, and did get to the right spot. Can't find excuses for anything except for the horse that you backed, Star Beretta, that pulled up lame.
Yeah, put up lame and is going to be spelled. So that's probably all we can say about that race.
Yep.
We're whipping through these. Race 5, the 2,000 metre race, above average tempo here. Fortunately, I got on the board here with Aravine and did get out to, I thought, good odds. And it was some sort of result. But yeah, lost on the day as far as the horses go, and won on the politics. So
this is the worst race I've ever seen. It's probably been worse, but this is as bad a race as I've seen on a Saturday for a long time.
Yeah,
not the race and what time they've run, but trying to do the form for it. I thought it was a horrible race.
Well, that's the thing, you know. Like we were talking about Aravine, or I was talking about Aravine, I think, in the Queensland race. It was obviously not going there, and came here and had it pretty short on the ratings, and probably doubted myself there a bit in terms of the form lines coming into it. And look, maybe the market was just a little bit easy because of the stable, you know, the connections. A bit unfashionable.
Agree. It was just the two Melbourne horses were hard to line up, I guess.
But look, the horse does suggest that it'll get further than the 2,000 metres. Its 8 to 2 split was second best on the day in terms of sectional ratings, and I wouldn't be sort of ruling it out in an Oaks, but it would probably need to improve a bit, I'd say. But you know, maybe it's capable of doing it. Look, that was on the quick backup, that run there. It was not on the quick backup. It would have been on the quick backup going into Wednesday's race.
Yes.
But of course now, who knows what they're going to do. But anyway.
I couldn't find any excuses for anything either in the race. It was pretty ugly. I think there was a couple pulled up with issues. Mum's the Boss lost a plate. Horsey respiratory noises, and Classic Diva slow to recover, but I think they're just pretty average horses.
Yeah, Mum's the Boss copped a pretty nasty check too, didn't it?
It did. Yeah, there was a big inquiry actually into that ride, which, you know, there was interference, but I didn't think it was that exciting.
Mm. Okay. Now this was a win. Race 6, the 1,800 metre race. Geez, different horse here, Arapaho. I couldn't have found it.
Grease and oil change.
Grease and oil change, for sure.
It's like it went into the... it's like everyone else was on the slicks and it went for the wet weather tyres and just found 15 lengths.
Look, they've gone out average tempo here. In fact, they've gone out average tempo for the last 5 races, really. And so we probably don't need to talk about that again. The winners won by a space, gone like an absolute jet, and off that figure would definitely feature in black type races for sure. It is nommed for a 78, I think, is it? 78 next Saturday?
Yeah, 78, 2,400, so that'd be up 600.
That's not ideal.
No. I doubt it'd run, to be fair.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go there myself, but I don't like the 18 to 24. But look, this horse has obviously found found the right race and the right conditions, and that was its second run over a bit of a distance, I suppose, that 9 furlong, and it's still pretty lightly raced. So I'm not going to say it's a spike that can't be repeated. I'm going to say we need to see again. But look, the jock rode well. He was quite happy to sit out there, and that just goes to show you that there was no issue sitting wide on Saturday, especially with the inside being what it was. So
they've run along here, 1800. It's and it's finished off. So what do you say about the favourite?
Look, Dynasties, I laid it and sort of gave back what I won on it to I backed a horse called Who Dat and Perfect Radiance in the race. Just small bets on those and laid down. Did I have something on Travelling Code? I think I might have as well. But no, I don't like it. What they say, it didn't like the heavy track and
Slow to recover and going on with the preparation, I think, was the official.
Shively's got a trial. It's pulled up with a heart irregularity, and it's got a trial before the stewards before it races again. And Rebel Rama lost a plate after being well backed 13-2 and a 9-2. So, look, the winner's the only horse you could talk about really in this race, I think.
Well, it can go up and grow. I think Rebel Rama was only second up, and it can improve. Probably ridden a bit closer than it normally would be too. I think it'll be ready next time out. Obviously, the winner, I wouldn't be backing it to probably beat the winner next time around. Perfect Radiance will come on. I think it's ready to win. I think both these horses are ready to win in this grade. Obviously, Arapaho, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if Bjorn tries to find something up in Brisbane, whether it's, I doubt, well, he's not known for the Doomben Cup. We did get a question about that, but he'll find probably a Group 3 or something, I would imagine, for this horse.
No issue at all, I don't think. Look at sustain that run too. It ran the best last 8 and 6 sectional ratings of the meeting, third best last 4, sixth best last 200, but probably could have won by third if you really wanted to. But
it's insane, isn't it? Look at it go.
Yeah, just went like a jet. So definitely a horse to follow it. Race 7, we get on to the Lord Mayor's Cup. And we've already talked about tempo for the remaining races. Look, this winner's done a pretty good job. It's run the 7th best last 200 sectional rating. It's only.
What if you're on the second horse here? Oh, feeling. I wasn't. I didn't bet, but I would feel very sorry for whoever was on the second horse here.
The front man.
Oh. And another horse that improved out of sight, by the way, out of that stable. But how the hell? The winner's dropping out. After sitting outside leader, it drops back. The other one puts 6 on it, comes back and beats it with 6 lengths to the third horse or something.
It's done a pretty good job. It's only second run in Australia, and it can be competitive during the winter for sure, couldn't it?
Well, you would expect. Sort of like it obviously went very well in that high rating race at Hawkesbury first up, sitting on a fast tempo. It sat on not a fast tempo here, but it's jumped in distance on a heavy track sitting outside leader. So it's worked in both runs and run really well. It's it's a dangerous horse. Well, it's no ceiling. It's hard to know how high it'll go, is it? It's obviously a strong bugger. It gets bottled up here. The other horse has got all the momentum, run away from it.
Overall time is not much good, though. I suppose that's the only thing that's holding me back a little bit. But the winner's done as good a job as it would need to do anyway. Elias, it's where are we?
Slow to recover.
No, we haven't got to that race yet, have we? Yeah, no,
this is the race.
Yeah.
Slow to recover.
Slow to recover's got a trial. Marione's got a trial.
Cardiac arrhythmia.
Irish Sequel didn't handle the track. Bethencourt can't run the 2,000 metres.
Yeah, slow to recover. But I think, when you're differentiating between certain slow to recovers, some are more natural than others. I think like you say, he's gone as well as he can. He just doesn't quite run that trip. Not right part of the track either, but still.
Okay, on to race 8, unless there's something else out of that.
No, definitely nothing more there.
The 6 furlong 78. Well back this horse, Maramia, second run for the Joe Pride stable. Ran equal second best last 200 sectional rating on the day. Has done a good job. Sunborn failed to handle the track. Lady Luxury's run some pretty slick sectionals here. Best last 4 and 2 sectional rating on the day, but it is a horse that has had plenty of chances, but it's certainly a decent enough effort.
Yeah.
In terms of time, though, this is the equal slowest time race of the day with the highway, so that
But
doesn't
they didn't come
inspire me
home too
much.
bad, did they? Sort of kind of this anchor
They
drop
came,
from
they
this
came,
point
they
to
came
the
home okay.
100. Yeah.
They came home okay, but still, it's that puts a bit of a dampener on it for me.
Yeah.
Look, maybe the winner can improve again and still be competitive in these sorts of races. I'm not saying it can't, but it's had 29 starts or something, 30 starts. So, and yes, it is with a different camp, and Joe Pride has a great record improving these types of horses. So,
and mid prep, you don't see him doing it very often. Obviously, went okay, just okay the other day for him. The money goes on Saturday. I thought it would be easy in betting, just the way the track was racing, and it didn't really look ideal for it. And I don't think its wet track form was super strong either, and that they sort of just it wouldn't budge in the market, and it ran to expectations. I don't think there's many stables I've ever seen where the horses run to their betting patterns as well as this stable.
Its best forms on firmer tracks to winner. So
on heavy tracks, is it?
No, but on firmer tracks.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, yeah. I do think this is a good run because I don't think I carried a bit of weight and 1200 first up on this track. Even though that it wasn't a super fast run race, to make up that amount of ground, not many horses did it. Most of the horses that came wide were there by that stage. So I think its run was really good. I'd be forgiving of Irish Angel. I think it's a sort of 1,000 metres, 1,100 metre horse, 1,200 too far for it first up on a track like this. And I agree, you just can't doubt Joe Pride. I wouldn't be surprised if he gave this horse a break now and came back next prep and just went on with it.
Well, it's only had 2 runs back?
I think it's had quite a few runs for the prep though, hasn't it? Hang on.
Well, 57 days, so I call that a spell.
Yeah, when they come from, you might be right, and he might just chip away. I just think he's just so good at improving them, and I love it when people like him get a fresh crack at a horse like this. So before that, what it had? Well, it had been up since it had its first run in September last year. So it hasn't had a good break for a long while.
So we're talking about the winner, right?
Mara Maria, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it debuted in June 19, but you're talking about.
No. First, it hasn't had a long break. So it had 203 days off and had a first up run in September last year, and then it's had that 57-day break. It hasn't had a break between that. That's what I'm saying. So he's done a good job that it's running a 12 off a 57-day break and 28 days. So he's just a remarkable trainer at getting these tried horses and
firing
and fight. He's just a freak. He's the best I've seen.
Yes. Okay. Race 9, the 1500 metre 88, and I was on Quintello here, and another T very special for me.
It was the top one.
Why he did what he did, I don't know. But anyway, look, it got beat. The winner's gone well enough, and it ran 4th best last 800 rating, 5th best last 600, 4th best last 400, and 8th best last 200 rating of the meeting. It beat it fair and square, but I did think Quintello was still going to get there in the end, but it didn't.
So your issue is here that he's got no urgency?
Got no urgency. He allowed those horses to come up around him and then sort of basically put himself half a length or so behind them before he's really able to sort of knuckle down and ride this horse out. He just seems
so he could have been here instead of here. He could have been dictating to the horses behind him and to the best part of the track instead of chasing them and trying to get to the best part.
Yeah. So I think that was an error of judgment and cost the horse the race, but that's just my view. Foreign in the race pulled hard, didn't want to settle at all at any stage, and I think that's about it.
Fairly ordinary race. I think Quintello's still the best horse. Obviously, No to Play was only second up, so he can keep going forward. Surf Dancer was only second up as well, I think. I thought Solar Apex might run a little bit better. The first 5 across the line, I think, can be placed well enough. Tampering's a bit of a nightmare to place, but in a similar grade, they can all be competitive. The race was good enough to certainly warrant that. But I do agree, probably you were stiff.
And the last race of the day, the winners here, big odds. Mitch Beer's got a winner, good on him. And what was it, around 30 to 1 or so, wasn't it?
Didn't go like it.
No, it's gone well, I think.
So that's the first part of the race. It's a bit of a nightmare. Skywolf looked like probably the leader, straight out the back.
My bet, number T Berry. I got completely poleaxed by him Saturday. So
you got the full berry.
Got the full berry, indeed. And total forgive Skywolf, right?
Yeah, I think he's not. He couldn't. He's not a chaser in any way, shape, or form. We see him just completely spending all his energy in the run too. Like, yeah, just a monster forgive. He's a horse that needs to roll and dictate.
And Rainbow Connection, first up after a long spell, 5 to 1 out to 9 to 1. Stable was dodging wet tracks, and then they just had to start it. So it was like always going to be very easy in the market. Probably hasn't run too bad, really. I mean, I know it's been beaten 8 1/4, but you know,
8 1/4 wasn't 8 1/4 on Saturday, was it? Like as soon as you ran out of petrol, it was an impossible track to keep up. You were sinking.
Yeah, it can obviously be fitter and a few more runs under its belt. No reason why it can't get back to some of its old form, I suppose.
Another important thing, like at the 200, he's only a length and a half off the leader, so all that margins come pretty late in the race. In the worst part of the track, definitely think he's a huge forgive. I'm surprised the time was actually. It looked a worse race to me watching it live. I thought they came in like Brown's cows. There were a couple of excuses for favoured runners, and thought the time would be a bit slower than it was. I actually thought I found this thing, He's a Gentleman, just because the race was so average and it was sort of 25 to 1 and had wet track mile form. But no surprise to me that a roughie won the race. Just a little bit surprising that it went better than I thought it could.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that wraps up that meeting. It's a pretty quick review, but not much else to say, I don't think.
I don't think you want to read too much into it either, because it's a bit of an ugly day, and if you sort of get tied up into it, I think you want to be forgiving of runners more than you want to be giving too many bonuses out, because it's a pretty ugly track.
I mean, you can certainly be forgiving at horses that rouse and run. No issue there. And in terms of horses to follow, for me, the 2-year-old Madame Pomeroy and Arapaho there to 2. John, you?
Madame Pomeroy, 100%, absolutely nothing there. Horses to follow. No, that's scary. I should write these down in a short form, shouldn't I, rather than trying to go through the... Always seem to spring it on me in there. I think Rebel Rama next start can run well. Nothing there. Yeah, I'm scared of how good Arapaho went. Forgiving of Irish Angel, but they won't find the right race for it. No, that's it. Just that the 2-year-old was incredible. He can go to Brisbane and win. Top Sport. Let's talk about Top Sport.
Indeed. If you don't have an account, punters, you should have. They'll always give you a fair bet. And, of course, if we're betting on New South Wales stakes races, the limits are much higher, and you can get on from the time they go up. So to win 5,000, I think it is, even just for a basic sort of a second tier group race there, and Group 1's, of course, to win 10 early and to win 25 late. So best of best options, all those sorts of things. If you don't have an account, make sure you contact the boys there and get yourself set up.
I'll get some updated prices now that I'm Tristan's best mate. So not prices, limits for the Queensland Carnival. On a serious note, first time I met him the other day, and what I love about him is, one, I've got no shadow of any sort of airs and graces about Tristan. Great bloke, loves gambling, lives and dies by the sword, rides every result, old school bookie, no reason of like looking to sell out like a lot of others are, these little guys who come in and try and build up and sell. He was a really impressive human, and good to get to know him after talking to him a million times on the phone, and just so excited to run into someone who's actually a bookmaker, not just a numbers cruncher who wants to ban everyone and actually plays the game a little bit like it used to be played. Refreshing.
Indeed. It is indeed. Okay, let's get into the questions this week. And the first one we've got here is from William. Do you think Marzu being a live chance in the Everest is too big a bridge to climb? What do you? Well, first of all, let's get your thoughts, John, on how you see it from a field
because
point of
you're going to
view,
quantify it. You
I
can
can
be more
talk numbers.
realistic about what it's done. So I think it's certainly a horse that's still on the up. So it's a hard horse to put a cap on. Do I think it needs to improve? Yes. Paul will have more of an answer on how it went last week and whether it did improve off what it did over the Sydney Carnival. What I saw over the Sydney Carnival, I think it's probably got to improve, 5 lengths or so to get near a horse like Nature Strip or Eduardo if they're near its top. Is that impossible? Absolutely not. It ticked another box since up in Brisbane, chasing a fast tempo and really, sticking it out. I still think it needs to improve significantly at weight for age to get near the Everest Tour, like a Nature Strip. It's $7 at the moment. I couldn't get it anywhere near that, but it's not a 1,000,000 to 1 chance for mine.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of ratings, I just had a look at a quick glance at the main contenders this morning in the betting for the Everest. Look, I've got Lost in Running a 102.2 at peak on my figures. Nature Strip running 106.3 when it won the VRC Sprint, and I think it got close to that figure for memory too when it won the TJ last year. Was it last year? Can't remember, but I think it was. Look, recent form, probably a length or so below that for Nature Strip. Classic Legend's got that one-off peak when it won the Everest back in 2020. Last year ran a bit like a 99.2, so well below what it did. I'd say it's gobbling up a bit of percentage there that it shouldn't. Eduardo 104.2 and Marzu 100.6. So what I'm saying really is Marzu's got at least a 2-length improvement requirement for it to be competitive in the Everest. I'm not saying it can't do it because, as you know, this horse does keep improving and it seems to have found a new lease on life, and who knows what it's going to do between then and now and when the Everest rolls around. But if the race was run tomorrow, I'd say it's probably at least 2 lengths below the standard required, assuming that Nature Strip, continues to run around, holds the form, and it would be the main contender for mine at the moment, I would say, Nature Strip.
Yeah, and there's probably more chance that Nature Strip regresses than goes forward, and Marzu is more likely probably to go forward than regress. So, yeah, the gap's not impossible.
Indeed. Next question from Jake. Following yesterday's discussion from yourself and others regarding track ratings, could you please give some time on the show to explain how track ratings are determined and outline the formal process, if any? So you're talking, Jake, about the official track ratings. I'm assuming, based off the questions that you're asking, is it solely off the penetrometer? And if so, can a certain reading result in a different track rating at different venues? Yes. The answer to that part is yes. Is it solely based off the penetrometer? Who knows? It seems to be the vibe, the feel, or whatever they feel like saying, or not saying, for that matter. Where are these readings taken on the track? Is it an average over the entire track area? Look, it's different. It's not consistent. Every track is going to be dealt with differently. That's part of the problem, and why these readings are never going to be accurate unless they take them off times, like they used to, and like it should be, in my view. When ratings are determined, what part of the track does it refer to? Example, is it a standard 3 metres off the rail, for instance? No, it's not standard. There is no standard. There is no consistency. And there is no consideration given to accuracy. It's all about politics and how they drive the track preparation policies and how they vary from one PRA to another. Following on from above, when a track is clearly inferior on the inside and the jockeys head to the outside fence, the times of the racing on the inside could be equivalent to, say, a heavy 8, whereas racing on wider ground, the times could reflect the 6. What is the correct rating with such variability, and how do you handle this within ratings to win? Look, that part is actually a good question, or a good sub-question. The rate is handled, first of all, it's a consistent process. It's recalibrated and recalculated every day. So we're not looking for penetrometer readings or what people think or whatever. It's just based off time figures. And obviously, those times have to be adjusted, right, for track speed. So once you've done all that, then you can go through that process. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of how to calculate it. That's specialised IP, so we're not going to talk about that. I don't care at all for the official track conditions. So when I'm doing form, I only have one column showing, which is the track speed column, You can show the official next to it if you choose, and look, some people might think there's an advantage to be had there. I just think it serves to confuse, and I know that the official readings are poor, and therefore I'm not interested in what they say.
It's good. Like I said, I agree with you. And the only reason I use it is because you look at it and go, well, Joe thinks it was a 10 when it was a 4. So it has to be an advantage. And I understand why you might not want to look at it as well. But, anyway.
Well, the reason why is because I don't want to get hung up in the process of doing the form and thinking about what they said it was versus what I say it was, because really what I say it is has a weighting on my output, whereas what they say it is I have total disregard for. So I couldn't care less. But each to their own.
I'd still love them to get it a little bit closer to right at the start of the day. That would help.
Yeah, it'd be great if they did a lot of things, John, but they're not going to. And we had enough of a rant a week or so ago.
I agree with everything you said.
There's no point going back down that path, I don't think.
No.
Next question from Weapon of Choice. First question for Paul. Read Quintello on Saturday. Are you willing to say your difference in price or staking size if J-Mac was available to ride compared to T. Berry? Look, that's actually a good question. And I will say that whilst I would have had J-Mac probably a roll shorter on my price, my bet would have been the same. And the reason for that, a couple of things. Heavy track, the price range that we're talking about, and in regards to that particular race. If it was a dry track, it'd be a different answer. The bet would have been greater, and the price would have been shorter. So instead of a roll of the board, there might have been 3 rolls or 4. Once again,
and what's that to do? Why is that?
Well, it's just the way I do things. I don't really want to go into why.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to know why the weighting of a jockey on a dry to a heavy track would be different. It was interesting. That's all.
Well. My bet size is definitely different on a heavy track because I don't bet as much. Generally speaking, I don't. And so at that price range. So when we're talking odds on, heavy tracks, I might wind it back a quarter of what I might normally bet. Whereas if the horse was 5 to 1, 10 to 1, I might have the same bet as if it were a dry track. So all I'm doing is cutting back on that shorter end of the market a little bit on general wet tracks. Yeah, I'm being a little bit more demanding. And look, in that particular instance, it made a difference. I'll tell you the prices. I had it 4 to 5. It would have been 8 to 11 had J-Mag ridden it, and but that difference would be would change depending on what price it was. It was how it came out in terms of advantage, what the distribution was in the field itself, and the track condition. So, a few different things.
Yep.
What did he say? What are your thoughts on Sam Clipperton? Do you believe he's going to be able to maintain his current good form moving forward? Are you eventually expecting some regression to previous levels? Well, look, all jockeys are going to regress to their mean at some point, as all trainers will. I can say the last 2 years, Sam Clipperton losing only 6.25% at SP, which is outstanding. And last 12 months, he's winning about 15.7% at SP, which is phenomenal. In terms of how much he's improved this year, from 1st of January, he's improved 4 pounds on my rating.
That's a big improvement, sure.
That's a decent improvement, yeah. Makes a big difference to the price that you send them out at. And since the 5th of February, he's been pretty consistent, 1 pound swing either way, depending. Once again, those figures are recalculated and delivered every day using pretty sophisticated processes. Do you have an opinion on Sam?
Well, I do, and I think it shows what a jockey is maybe a little bit like. I'm actually surprised that his figures long term are not as probably a bit slower than that, a bit lower than that, and it shows what a horse like Marsden and a bit of stable support from someone like Snowden does to a jockey that's not the top tier jockey. So someone like James McDonald, who knows no matter what happens, however they ride, every horse they ride on Saturday, they're going to have a full book or get good rides next Saturday. Sam Clipperton's certainly not in that position. So therefore, I think they tend to ride a little bit gun shy. They ride that pair further back. They take a sit. They do everything safe, and therefore they don't win out of turn. As soon as, a horse like Marzu comes across and they get a bit of wind in their sails, they're that pair closer. They're jamming them out of the gate. They're taking off 100 metres earlier instead of waiting for everyone else. And I think that's the difference. I think it shows he's a prime candidate for what a bit of confidence can do to a jockey that maybe doesn't have the support around them all the time to know that they're going to get handed grog on a platter every week. And at the moment, like say 4 pounds is a big upgrade from the start of the year, and he seems to deserve it. He's not making many mistakes, and he's making the most of his opportunities, which is great to see. Will he regress? I think he probably will at some stage a little bit if he goes through a dry spell, but I'm taking him more seriously than I certainly was 6 months ago.
Yeah, he's going really well. Okay, next question from Surfing Punter. If you owned a Arapaho, would you opt for a quick backup into the Demon Cup? Well, I don't know how that would happen because NOM's closed early May, but if it's a theoretical question based on the rating figure that he produced on Saturday, would I? No, I don't think I would. I think I'd like to see this horse, perhaps contest easier races or easier stakes races. And look, with the benchmark system being what it is, why do you want to go and win a listed race anyway and see your rating jump so far when you can win the benchmark race and make more money than what you can in winning a listed? By the time with all the bonuses and all the rest of it, it's just another complete fuck up by the industry in terms of the way they've demoralised and watered down black type racing because of the excess prize money for handicaps. So your standard handicap on a Saturday.
There's a lot to be said for running your horses through their grades, and it doesn't happen in Sydney as much as you would expect because of the prize money. They seem to jump and kill themselves pretty quick. It was like if Shelby 66 was a reverse example of it, to be able to jump and cope with it for a few weeks, but it caught up with him pretty quickly. Well,
yeah, and look, I think I made a comment, sort of posed the theory to Danny Williams on Twitter, and look, he'd done an excellent job, and the stable's going really well, and that's all good. When you won that, or when you ran that race in Sydney to be beaten, and your rating escalated so far, why wouldn't you go to say Brisbane and win 3 or 4, class races, set weight races? And would that have made a difference prize money wise? Well, maybe. I mean, hindsight, I don't even know how much he's earned since then, but it won. So you'd say now that in hindsight that was the wrong move, but that to me would have been a smarter programming move.
Long term.
Because long term, yeah. But anyway, look, it's all
it's a freak result.
A bit theoretical.
And like so, there would be a case that Arapaho could run well in a Doomben Cup on the quick backup on a heavy track up off that, and I don't think that's the question. If that was the question, yes, it possibly can. Would you do it as an owner? And you've answered probably no, and I'd be the same. I'd be happy to keep it in Sydney away from the carnival and try and knock off a couple more $120,000 gift races.
Indeed. Okay, next question from, who's this guy? Suda28 or something?
Suda28.
Okay.
The time on it.
Why can't Sky improve their coverage on Queensland racing, particularly replays? The New South Wales bias is getting ridiculous to the point that they should be discounting Queensland-based subscribers. Saturday, no Doomben or Gold Coast races. Toowoomba goes ahead surely, then they can show at least one replay of Toowoomba in the scheduled Doomben slots on Sky TC. Nope, more Rosehill replays. It was beyond a joke. Now the new website is non-user friendly, so you still can't contact them and connect to the website or via the website to give feedback or complain. I must admit, I don't even think about what you're talking about.
If you're relying on,
I'm not saying it's not right. I mean, I haven't given it any consideration, and I'll just take your word for it.
It's amazing to me that the TAB and its connections, so the Sky Channel, is falling behind in IT, of all things. They've had a 50-year head start on everyone. They've got the biggest bankroll behind them to be in front of everyone, to make sure all the website, everything's user-friendly. It should be a NASA website, and it's getting worse by the day. If you're relying on them for replays and and that sort of information, you're in a lot of trouble. I agree with that.
Well, I mean, I do see what you're saying about, you know, the coverage and how they swap often from one race to another, or don't give adequate coverage of, you know, a more important race, and then next thing you know, you're crossing to, you know, Menangle trots or whatever. I don't know. I'm just giving examples of what I think he's saying. But yeah, look, if you're Queensland based and you've got an issue, I suppose you should be able to, you know, at least leave some feedback or make some sort of complaint.
I think, I don't think anyone cares there either. Like, I don't think it would have crossed anyone's mind to put on Toowoomba replays to replace the lost replays. I don't think it's anyone's job, and I don't think anyone's going out of their way to try and make content or look after, you know, punters or whatever. So I don't think it's a real priority. I think that's the biggest problem.
Nothing going on up top there.
No.
Anyway, last question here, Nikita. Hey, John, this is you. Just wondering what your opinion is on pulling up lame, poor recovery, cardiac arrhythmia, I should say, in terms of betting. I've found the last 2 months betting in New South Wales metros that a much larger percentage have pulled up with these types of issues. How much do you consider pulling up to, say, lame 1 out of 5 and poor recoveries when they sometimes run a similar figure or just below? Also, in regards to betting, do you ever believe it to be unfair when a horse pulls up with cardiac arrhythmia and you haven't even had a run for your money?
I'll answer it because it's addressing me, but it makes sense that the last few months, obviously, like, the tracks have been out of control, and even if it's not the track on the day that you're dealing with, they've had to come through 2, 3, 4, 5 testing runs in a row. They've been trained on wet tracks. They've been trained in trying conditions. They're going through, you know, a much more difficult preparations with, you know, they're wet all the time. They get feed issues. They get abscesses. There's just stuff going on all the time that's not normal at the moment. So therefore, you get a lot more cardiac rhythm. You get horses pulling up. You get more horses pulling up lame because they're being tested under more stress. That all makes sense. How do you cope with it? Well, it's pretty much unforeseen. You know, this amount of rain for this long. So, you know, it's really, I think you like Paul says, when he's doesn't bet as heavily on these sorts of tracks, and I think my turnover is about like 80 or 90% down on this time last year for this sort of period. So, you know, pulling your head in and really demanding a lot, it's annoying and it cuts your turnover. But, you know, you got to be very careful at the moment because it's just, that's how it is. And I think cardiac arrhythmia is one of those ones that's a bit, you know, like a bit of the old slow to recover. What does it really mean? I'd love that most of these horses had to trial. Again, a lot of the time they don't have to. And that makes it more difficult to line the form up going forward. So it's
perhaps you could break it down by stables, and, you know, not so much get a stat, but get a better understanding of how often these horses, you know, like, for instance, C. Waller, cardiac arrhythmia could be a bonus.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, next time. Look, I think my view
Kim
is...
Ward's been similar recently too. Kim's had a couple bounce off that. I think lameness is very different to cardiac arrhythmia and slow to recover. That's probably the big discrepancy between the two.
So I suppose I look at a thing or a few things. First of all, I forgive, and I go, okay, what was the horse expected to do versus, you know, how is it expected to run? And obviously you can look at its price and make some sort of determination there. How did it actually run? If the horse was well supported and ran poorly because of a forgive scenario, like one of these, then I would be more inclined to say, well, I'm definitely not going to use that run in assessing it next time out. I'll go to another run and I won't penalise, for example. If it was much longer price and it happened, I'd pretty much just forgive the run, but I might also take into account the fact that, you know, it wasn't expected to do anything, you know, as a result of its SP, so I might mark it down. Then
what
I get
price
another.
Do you use, your price or SP?
I don't use SP. We've got other prices in Axis that you can use that normalise better. And so you look, it doesn't really matter what you use as long as it's consistent, right? So whether it's tote, whether it's SP, whether it's Betfair, whatever. And so then there's other scenarios where I might say, look, based on how many starts they've had and track conditions, there's just so many. I don't really want to go into them all because I'm so
But
I'm
yeah,
starting to talk about too much detail in my process, but
the moral of the
yeah,
story is you're very forgiving in most of these situations.
yeah, but yeah, exactly. I'm very forgiving, and how I actually address it practically depends on a few different things.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe it's
Now,
unfair? You can't believe it's unfair because it's just a part of racing. It is
it's part
unfair,
of
but
racing. Yeah, look, I mean, these they're horses, not machines, right? So we've got to remember what we're betting on. Yes, that's it. Look, there's no other questions this week, and there is no question of the week deemed by the panel, the esteemed panel. John and myself, we just couldn't find one that we would agree on. So it will jackpot next week. It'll be $200 next week. So there's a bit more incentive there to get something in. And look, feel free to send them in early because, you know, people do, and we start compiling a list, and, you know, you can either message. Yeah, you can message me or John, and even if I'm not following you on Twitter, you can still message me. My DMs are open, and we'll hopefully give away $200 next week, as we did last week by accident.
What race? Oh, we've got a jumbo Saturday card now to preview.
We do, and it'll probably be the review of the Brisbane races next week, and we'll have a rapid fire show on Thursday to talk about there, and of course most of our focus last week was canned as a result of the meeting at Doom not going ahead. Okay, punters, we'll see you on Thursday for the rapid fire show. Thanks for joining us again. Hopefully you're getting something out of it. And if you've got suggestions, or you think we should be doing things differently, or you want to see a different format, or just different pieces of information, or how you want us to present it, feel free to send me an email or a message, or John, and we'll do our best to accommodate. Thanks, guys.
Send it to him. Thanks, guys.
Send it to me. See ya.